Hi everyone, this is Hillary Ellers and I'm coming to you from Lightworks Studio, and we are studying reincarnation, and I'm so excited about it. It's such an important topic, and I think a very interesting one too. Last lesson we started our ideas regarding reincarnation, and now this is the second segment in the series on reincarnation. Once an animal leaves the group soul, and you know in the past we've talked about that in the beginning the younger animals are members of a group soul, and they, in a sense, share. The way I think of that is that they share a higher self. That's one way to look at it. And that higher self guides and protects all the animals in the group. And this is where animal instinct comes from, that connection they have to the group soul. Once an animal begins to grow more and become more aware, they leave the group soul, and we've talked about that, and they go into the process of individuating. And at that point, in the process of individuating, the animals grow closer to humans. And I feel it's at this point, when individuation happens for an animal, that they begin to go into the process we think of more as reincarnation. Now, before that, they do come in and out of life and in and out of different bodies. But it is something about this individuation causes the process of reincarnation the animal goes through to be more like the process of reincarnation we go through. It is taught that karma begins with red blood. And that's really amazing if you think of it, because that indicates that animals experience karma, that what they send out also returns to them. And in a sense, they also are spiritually accountable for their choices and actions. Karma and reincarnation are very closely linked. And we will see more about that as we go on into this topic. Know that there is, for humans, no set number of lifetimes. That's what I believe. Some people grow faster, some people grow slower. The faster people have fewer lifetimes. The slower people have more. There is no set time between lifetimes. So I feel there's no set number of lifetimes, and there's no set time between lifetimes. Some people die and almost immediately come back into a human body. Some people die and they may stay on the other side of life hundreds of years before they are born again. Know that earth time and time in the higher levels or dimensions is not the same at all, not at all. And people who are in the on the other side of life experience time very differently than we do. And my sense is that Earth time moves much slower, and time on the inner planes is moving faster. In the physical dimension, time is relative, and that's part of Einstein's theory of relativity. Time is, in the physical dimension, very associated with gravity and speed. The more gravity, the slower time moves. The faster something is moving, the slower time moves. And this is it especially has an impact on space travel. That a long time on Earth may really seem like very little time on the inner levels, but it's really believed. We don't know yet, although it's beginning to be proven, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. But that if an astronaut is gone for like 100 years, well, that wouldn't be, well, yeah, let's say 100 Earth years, they may only age, no telling, 50 years. I'm just pulling a number out of the air. And when they come back to Earth, in that case, a lot of their loved ones won't even be alive or will be very aged. And just know that there's this very different thing about time. Time is not at all set and concrete. The identity that you have right now, whoever you are, whatever your name is, how you identify yourself, how you think of yourself, who you are right now, on a certain level, will always exist. And so know that any lifetime you have ever lived continues to exist. You can go back, saying back, and see that already is a suggestion of time. So maybe we should say you can go across. That's probably more accurate. You can go across to another lifetime, and that other lifetime is right there, solid and real. You can go across in a different direction and touch another lifetime, and it also is solid and real. Let's say your parents died quite a long time ahead of you, and maybe on the other side they actually have reincarnated and come into new bodies and new lifetimes. Well, does that mean they are gone from you? Nope, they're not. At any point, you can always touch. You can always touch them and touch who they are, because who they are as you know them will always exist. And the same is true for our pets, our loved ones, whether they are human or animals. We always hold each identity we have ever had. Think of it this way. When we die, our identities do not dissolve. They keep existing, and we simply add to all the other identities we have had and or do have. It's not have had, because again, that's a past tense. And it's so hard to talk about this and keep the concept of all of this happening right now, because our brains don't work that way. So even in language, it's really hard to talk about and not reference past tense. So what I'd like you to know then is knowing about and touching into other lifetimes is not about remembering a lifetime, because we always think of it that way, that I remembered living in Egypt, or I remembered being a shepherd in wherever. We always think of it as a memory, but it's not a memory, because it does not exist outside the now. The now is big enough, we don't realize that, but the now is big enough to hold every event that has ever happened. The now is big enough and spacious enough to also hold every lifetime you've ever had. And the way I'd like you to begin to see if you can think about this is in this way. These lifetimes are not in the past. They are in the now and on a different track of the now. So think of the now having lots of different tracks, so to speak, that you can be on. But it's all in the now, and it is all happening at once. One way to think about this is to think of all of your lifetimes not like a train where there are different boxcars rolling by one after another. It's easy to think about past lives. See the word past? That's language again. It's easy to think about your other lifetimes in that way, of sequences moving by. That's not how your other lifetimes are. See if you can hold the concept that your other lifetimes are like a spider web. And each point where the little lines of the web cross is a point in which there is a lifetime. The whole web exists at once, even as all your lifetimes exist right now. Right now. Think of that. Like right now, you are all these other people, all the other people you have ever been, you are right now. Whatever happens in any lifetime vibrates through and affects and influences all your lifetimes. If you have a very big trauma in this lifetime here, it shakes the web, and all your lifetimes are affected. So when you have a huge trauma in lifetime A, lifetime B, C, and D have some kind of reverberation that is simultaneous to the event of the trauma. Know that when we talk about animals, just like we have karmic relationships with people, and karma tends to draw us together over and over, we also have karmic relationships with animals. And some of our animals we keep touching back in with over and over. In fact, sometimes we have actual spiritual relationships with animals. And certain animals are literally assigned to us. When an animal begins to individuate, they are on the way to becoming human. and they pull in much closer to a human or humans. And it is at that point that they may be assigned to a particular human. And that human may literally work with that animal, even if it is an unconscious process. That human may work with that animal over and over until they become human. And once an animal begins to individuate, I don't know how many times it takes to become human, but I have thought at least a few, maybe more. So you have this soul that you begin to foster and mentor and help, and this is my animal here, if you can't tell, that I'm helping and loving and teaching and working with. And that animal may come in a different body to me, or in another lifetime we may meet again. So it can happen either way. Does that make sense? That they may return to you, like I've had, some animals that meant the world to me who have died. They may come back in this lifetime when I'm Hillary, or we may both die and meet each other in a new lifetime. It is taught that humans are working particularly on the development of their mentality, their intellect. And that's the stage that we're at in evolution. And more advanced humans are working on the development of their spirituality. But to work on intellect, humans are working on concrete thinking, they're working on abstract thinking, they're working on intuition and imagination, all of those forms of intellect. It is only after a human has a more well-rounded contact with their intellect, they then begin at some point to focus on the development of their spirituality. And there are definite stages of progress made in the evolution of all people, that it is said, for instance, people's intuition. So many people want to be intuitive or psychic. A lot of people study how to become more intuitive or more psychic. And yet, at a certain level of your evolution or development, it will be a completely natural process for you to be intuitive. It will begin to work for you just like any kind of thinking works. There's nothing wrong with studying to be more intuitive, but just know that at a certain point of your development, you will be intuitive. It will come with the territory of wherever you are. Now, know that in every kingdom there is a kind of applied energy to evolve. Every kingdom of the earth, all the kingdoms, the mineral, the plant, the animal, and the humans, all have a drive to grow and to evolve. And we're all working on that. So when we're alive, this urgency maybe, in some people it's a definite urgency, in other people it's more unconscious and not as pressured within them. but all people have some kind of motivation to grow. Even a criminal wants to become a better criminal. You understand what I'm saying? We all have some kind of motivation to grow, to learn, and to develop more than we are. Now, when you are in the afterlife, we've talked about this already a little bit, that you examine yourself. You look at where you've been, where you've come from, where you are. You look at your life and you compare it. We talked about this in our last lesson, that you compare your life you just had, because you're in the afterlife now. You compare the life you just had with the plan you had for that life. And you look at how that last, here again, a word about time, right? Last, when it's all happening at once. You compare that other lifetime you just came out of with all your lifetimes. And I think somehow it's a little bit like shuffling a deck of cards. You integrate everything you've been about into everything you are. You bring it all together, you integrate it. And so know that in the evolution of your soul, that you're learning about everything, you're comparing everything you've learned with everything you already know, and you even look at what you would like to know that you're not quite sure of yet. And that's how you begin to plan your future. Again, a word of time. That's how you begin to plan your next lifetime. You look at where you've come to and where you want to go. One thing I'd like you to know, because we have been everything, by the time we finish being human, we have done the whole trip. We've been every kind of person. I want you to know that good and evil, we see them, and I think a lot of this is because of our Christian teachings, that we are taught that good and evil oppose each other, and that good and evil are in a constant war and a constant struggle. And you know, the angels of light and the angels of darkness are battling it out. And I want to let you know that good and evil actually together form a whole. W-H-O-L-E, not H-O-L-E. Okay, good and evil together form a completion. And it's taught, you know, that the only way we can know anything is by comparison. Like, I don't know about daylight. I really don't know daylight until I have experienced night. And then all of a sudden, oh, daylight, yeah. If we only had daylight, we wouldn't really know it. Isn't that interesting to think about? The same is true, you know, like an artist can only paint form by using light and darker shades in the painting. Like without the darkness, there would be no form. It's very important to begin to realize that good and evil, interestingly, and it's scary to think about, it's a big step forward to think of this, that good and evil support each other. That's very frightening for most people to think of. And I'm just putting it out there for you to begin to consider. And you know, anything I teach, you can disagree with, and you probably do disagree with some of the things I'm teaching you. And disagree, you know. And yet, what I'm always saying is don't throw it in the garbage, set it on the shelf so that you can go back to it and look at it again later, time again. You can look at it at some other point in your process. Better way to say it. I'm trying to learn how to work with time in a different way. You can probably tell today in particular because we're talking about this. I'm watching my language, and our language is just stuffed with words that cause us to think and react and look at life in a linear way when it really isn't like that. Know that that's the way our brains work, but that is not the true nature of reality. And I feel in a way perhaps our brains are given a little piece of something so that we can work with it and not be overwhelmed by it. It might be that at this point in our growth or evolution, we couldn't really hold the whole picture comfortably. It might be too overwhelming for us. But if you can know that that picture exists, and it exists all at one time, even if you can't really see it, it's a big step forward. And then you'll grow in time to see it. You'll grow to see how everything fits together all at the same time. So know that there is so much we're all learning together, and we are learning it together. You know, the collective, we've had, I think, I love the lesson we had on the collective and the individual. I love that lesson. And know that we're all connecting in together, learning together. We're all teaching each other. We're all, whether we realize it or not, supporting each other. So take care now, and we will touch back in again. Do whatever you need to do to allow your body to be comfortable. And know that you can, at any point in our meditation, you can do whatever you need to do to remain comfortable. Any sound that happens is simply life unfolding around you. And even though you are entering meditation, you are still very much a part of life. Find yourself stepping into your physical body more completely. You may have been up in your head thinking. Imagine now that you are flowing into your entire body. And now simply pay attention to what it feels like to breathe. Every incoming breath is bringing a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. Feel your entire body relaxing. Feel your muscles letting go, growing longer. Your shoulders drop. Every incoming breath is bringing a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. Every outgoing breath carries with it all of the frustration and tension of the day, all out and away from you. Just like cleaning a floor. All the tension of the day is flowing out and away from you. Your energy is being cleaned and cleared. Know that from this deeply relaxed place, you can know and experience things that are deeper and larger. In this moment, imagine You are building a new experience of time. Imagine that you are moving up above your life and looking down. Instead of seeing a straight line, imagine that you are seeing a circle. Know that this circle is your lifetime, and it is time in general. See if you can find the beginning of the circle. Just look and see. Where does this circle start? What you will become aware of is there is no beginning. And even as there is no beginning, there is no ending. Begin to understand that what you have seen as the past is simply another place on the circle. It is not ahead or behind you. And the same is true for the future. It is simply another place on the circle. Just breathe deeply and breathe in this realization. Nothing is behind you. Nothing is ahead of you. everything is with you. And just see if you can make your vision of your life large enough. The now is this entire circle. Ask that your understanding of time will grow. And you will have a clearer and clearer understanding. This is requiring you to envision an entirely new relationship between the events of your life. They are not ahead of you or behind you. Simply on a different place of the circle. And now bring with you all that you have experienced. And give thanks for the fact that your ideas can grow. And gradually bring with you all that you have experienced. And begin to return to the safe space of your physical body. When you are back, you can begin to move and stretch and hi everyone. Thank you.